In this video, you'll see how to create void forms that can be subtracted from solid forms. We'll see how to host 2D line work on the faces of objects, and how to create forms by combining line work with the edges from existing objects. I have the exercise file building mass open, and here we can see that we have some solid forms, and we will create some void forms to cut away from them. First, we'll use a void form to create an opening in the side of the building here. And to do this, I'll first open up the level 1 floor plan view. Now, from the Create ribbon on the Draw panel here, we'll enable the Line Drawing tool. And this will default to be model lines. And we can see we have a placement plane of level 1. So now in the view, we'll snap to this middle reference plane here just outside of the building. And then we'll sketch across to the right hand side and type in a distance of 40 feet. And then we'll sketch vertically up until we get the alignment with the existing edge in the model and snap to this. And now we'll draw across to the left hand side and type in a distance of 80 feet. And now we'll come vertically down to align with our first line. And then we'll click to create an enclosed shape. So having got that drawn, I'll click Modify to finish the Draw Line tool. And now we'll swap back to the 3D view. And now we can see we have that closed shape sitting there on level 1 at the bottom of our building. So to create a void form, we'll select these lines, and then from the Modify Lines ribbon tab on the Form panel, under the Create Form tools, we'll click Void Form. And straight away we can see that that gets extruded into a 3D box. And we can tell it's a void by the transparent orange colour. And as soon as I click off of this to deselect it, we can see that it cuts away from the solid object that it was overlapping to leave us the opening that we're looking for. The void is still in place, so if I come over to the edge here and start to press the Tab key to cycle through the different objects, we can see that that void gets highlighted and we can click to select it. We won't make any changes, I'll just click off. And then straight away we can see that that opening comes back as the void starts cutting again. Looking at the levels in the project, we can see we have level 2 here, and we'd like the top of the void to align with that. So to do this, we'll use the Align tool. So from the Modify ribbon on the Modify panel here, we'll click the Align tool. And then we'll select level 2 as the reference to align to. And then we can pick the top of the void or the underside of the opening here, and it will move down to align to level 2. We'll click to close the padlock, which will create an alignment constraint between the top of the void and that level, meaning that should the level move in the future, then the top of the void and the underside of the opening will also move. Now panning around here, we want to create another inset on the end of the building here. And to do this, we'll draw some lines that are hosted on the face at the end. So we'll go up to the Modify ribbon tab, and from the Draw panel, we'll click the Rectangle tool. We can see that that will enable model lines. And now we need to make sure that we have Draw on Face clicked, as this then means that as we go over the model, we can see faces being highlighted, and the highlighted face would then be the host for those lines. So before I draw, I'll go up to the options bar and we'll set an offset value of 2 feet. And now coming into the view here, we'll hover over the face at the end, and then we'll get the end point at the top left corner. And now as we draw, we can see we have the rectangle being drawn on that face. The offset is to the outside, so I'll use the spacebar on the keyboard to flip it to the inside. And then we can snap to the bottom right corner to draw the rectangle. So now that's drawn, I'll click Modify to finish drawing rectangles. And I'll come back and select an edge here on this face. And we can see now if I use the 3D drag controls here and drag this out, then those lines will follow with it because they're hosted by that face. I'll go up to the Quick Access toolbar and click Undo to undo the change we just made. And now we'll turn these lines into a void form. So with them selected, we'll go up to the Modify Lines ribbon tab. And on the Form panel here, under the Create Form tool, we'll click Void Form. And this will then be extruded back into the solid shape that's hosting it here. And if I click off of this, we can see we have quite a deep recess into the solid form here. We'd like to get rid of the bottom ledge here, and to do this we'll use the Align tool. So from the Modify ribbon tab on the Modify panel, we'll click the Align tool. Now we'll go over the edge here, and we may need to use the Tab key to select the underside of the solid. Then we can click on the underside of the void object here, and then as the void is now aligned with the bottom of the solid, it will cut right through that. So we'll click Modify to finish the Align tool. And we'd like to adjust the depth of the recess here as well. So we can select the back face. And we can see that this does have the 3D drag controls that we could use, but we'll edit the temporary dimension here, and we'll change this to be 6 feet. And we can see now that's created the recess that we're looking for in the end of our building here. Looking back round at the opening side here, we'd like to create some kind of canopy that follows around the edge of the opening. And to do this, we'll first need to draw the shape of the canopy to follow the edge. So I'll go to the level 1 plan view. And now we need to be able to sketch this accurately and to see where the edge of the opening is. So from the view control bar, we'll click on the visual style tools here, and we'll swap it from shaded to wireframe. And now we can see through that, including where the opening is, and we can now sketch that accurately. So now from the Modify ribbon on the Draw panel, we'll click on the Line tool to draw 2D model lines. And now we can first snap to the corner of the opening here that we have, and we'll draw vertically down by 10 feet. We'll then draw across to the right here by 2 feet. And then we'll come vertically back up and we'll snap to the edge of the existing solid form here. And then we'll come across and snap to the end of the first line that we drew to create that enclosed shape. So having got the lines drawn, I'll click Modify and then swap back to the 3D view. And we can see those lines down at level 1 just by the edge of the opening here. Now we'd like to sweep these around the edge of the opening to create the canopy. And to do this, we need to select the edges of the form that create that opening. So if I put my mouse over one of the edges here and start to press the Tab key on the keyboard, we can cycle through all of the objects until we have that one edge highlighted, and then click to select it. And now we need to repeat this for the remaining 3 edges. So we'll hover near the edge here and pressing Tab until it highlights, and this time we need to make sure we hold the Control key down to add it to our selection. And then once again we'll do this with this edge, so hovering over, pressing Tab and then holding Control to select. And then finally for the last edge here we'll tab through and hold Control to select. We also need to have the shapes that we've just drawn selected, so again holding the Control key down we can click on this now. And now we can head up to the Modify Lines ribbon tab, and from the Form panel here we can click to create a solid form. And then that 2D shape will be swept around the edges of the void there that we've created to give us the canopy that we're looking for. And finally, earlier in the video we created an alignment constraint between level 2 and the top of the void. So if I now select level 2, you can see we've got a temporary dimension here and it's currently 15 feet. So we'll click on this and I'll change it to be 20 feet. And once that's applied, we can see level 2 move up, but also the opening moves up and the canopy with it, as that canopy is created by the edges of that opening. And that now finishes creating the voids that we need for this model.